It happens on a trip. You are walking through a city you've only seen in pictures. Maybe it's the sun-drenched streets of Los Angeles or the vibrant chaos of New York City. You see the tall buildings, the famous landmarks, the bustling cafes. But then you see something else. A person is curled in a doorway, using a backpack as a pillow. This is the other America, the one not featured in the travel brochures. It's a quiet, persistent presence on the margins of our grandest destinations. This sight can be jarring. It breaks the illusion of the perfect American city. For a moment, the joy of discovery is replaced by a pang of discomfort. But what if we didn't let it fade? What if we held on to that feeling of unease? This is the first step toward seeing the crisis for what it is: a national failure. There was a time, not so long ago, when mass homelessness was not a normal feature of American life. In old photographs and faded memories, city streets were bustling with people, but the sight of someone living on the sidewalk was rare, even shocking. Today, however, it is commonplace, woven into the fabric of our daily existence, almost as if it has always been this way. We walk past encampments under highway overpasses on our way to work, the tents and makeshift shelters blending into the background of our commutes. What once might have stopped us in our tracks now barely registers as we hurry along. The shock has worn off. The first time we saw someone sleeping rough, it may have unsettled us, but over time, repeated exposure has dulled our reactions. For many, that initial discomfort has been replaced by a kind of weary acceptance, a resignation that this is simply how things are now. This normalization is one of the most dangerous aspects of the entire crisis. When something becomes normal, it becomes invisible, and invisible problems rarely get solved. How did this happen? It was a slow, gradual process, unfolding over years and decades. Each new tent, each new encampment, was met with less surprise than the last. Our senses became dulled by the sheer scale of the problem. The more we saw, the less we noticed. The extraordinary became ordinary. We developed a sort of selective vision, a coping mechanism to shield ourselves from discomfort. We learn to look away, to focus on anything but the suffering in front of us. We see the traffic light, the storefront, the coffee shop, but not the person sitting on the pavement. Our eyes slide past them, as if they are part of the scenery. This process is reinforced by our daily routines and our desire for comfort. We stick to familiar paths, keep our heads down, and avoid anything that might disrupt our sense of normalcy. We tell ourselves stories to make it easier to look away. Stories about personal responsibility, about bad choices, about how it could never happen to us. These stories help us justify our inaction. The presence of so many people without homes has become a silent testament to our collective priorities. It is a reflection of what we choose to see and what we choose to ignore. We stopped being shocked, and in doing so, we allowed the crisis to deepen. By looking away, we have made it possible for this tragedy to persist, right in the heart of our cities. The homelessness we see today is not an accident. It is the result of decades of policy decisions and economic shifts. In the 1970s and 80s, a perfect storm began to gather. Federal funding for affordable housing was slashed dramatically. Institutions for people with severe mental illnesses were closed down. The decline of well-paying manufacturing jobs meant many could no longer find work that paid a living wage. Wages for low-income workers stagnated, failing to keep up with the rising cost of living. The cost of housing began to skyrocket. The gap between what people earned and what it cost to keep a roof over their head grew into a chasm. This is how poverty becomes homelessness. The system is now designed to produce profit, not to provide shelter. Facts and figures can tell us the scale of the problem, but they cannot tell us what it feels like. To really understand homelessness, we have to listen to the stories of the people living it. Consider the story of a woman named Maria. She worked for 15 years as a cleaner at a downtown hotel, but when the pandemic hit, she lost her job. Soon, the eviction notice appeared on her door. She and her 2 children ended up in their minivan. Think about a young man named David. He aged out of the foster care system at 18. He ended up in a shelter surrounded by older men struggling with addiction and mental illness. These are not stories of personal failure. They are stories of systemic failure. By listening to their stories, we replace the stereotype with a human being. For a traveler, a city is a stage. We come to see the main attractions, to experience the culture, to create happy memories. In these zones, cities often work hard to present a clean and polished image. The reality of poverty and homelessness is pushed just out of view. But the crisis is too large to be completely hidden. A tourist walking from their hotel to a Broadway show will inevitably cross paths with it. These encounters can be deeply unsettling. The interaction is often awkward and brief. This creates a strange and unequal dynamic. The traveler holds all the power. Some travelers become annoyed or frustrated. This perspective misses the human tragedy. The presence of homelessness in our most celebrated cities is not a flaw to be scrubbed away. What we see on the streets is only the tip of the iceberg. The people we pass by every day, those sleeping on benches, huddled in doorways, or setting up tents along busy sidewalks, are just the most visible faces of a much deeper crisis. This is the most visible form of homelessness, but it represents only a fraction of the total crisis. For every tent or encampment we notice, there are countless others whose struggles remain hidden from public view. For every person sleeping in a park or a doorway, there are many more hidden from view. These are people who have lost their homes, but have not lost their determination to survive, often finding shelter wherever they can. These are the hidden homeless. They are families and individuals who move from place to place, never knowing where they'll sleep next, doing their best to stay out of sight. They are families doubling or tripling up in cramped apartments, sometimes with relatives or even strangers, just to keep a roof over their heads. Children do their homework on crowded floors, and privacy becomes a luxury they can't afford. They are people living in their cars, parking in lots or quiet streets, hoping not to be noticed or disturbed. For many, a car becomes the last barrier between them and the open street. This hidden population is vast and often uncounted. Shelters are overcrowded, and many are turned away each night, forced to find other ways to survive. Because they are invisible, their struggles are largely ignored. Society often overlooks those who don't fit the stereotype of homelessness, leaving them without support or recognition. The reality of homelessness is also far more brutal than most people realize. Exposure to harsh weather, hunger, and constant uncertainty make daily life a relentless challenge. Life on the street is a constant state of trauma and survival. Every day brings new dangers and hardships, and the struggle to meet even the most basic needs never ends. People experiencing homelessness are at a much higher risk of being victims of violence and crime. They are vulnerable to theft, assault, and exploitation, often with little protection or recourse. The stress of constant uncertainty takes a massive toll on mental health. Anxiety, depression, and trauma are common, and access to help is limited or non-existent. The crisis is not just that people lack housing, it is that they are being subjected to inhumane conditions. Every night, thousands of people, families, children, and individuals are forced to make impossible choices just to survive. This is a crisis that demands our attention, compassion, and action. So, what can be done? When we look at the scale of homelessness in our cities, it's easy to feel powerless. The issue is vast, complex, and deeply rooted in our society. Sometimes, it seems like no matter what we do, the problem just keeps growing. But that feeling of helplessness is something we must challenge, not accept. The problem can feel so large, so overwhelming, that individual action seems pointless. We might wonder if our efforts can really make a difference, or if the system is simply too broken to fix. But the truth is, every movement for change has started with individuals who refuse to give in to despair. But we cannot afford to. If we turn away, we allow the crisis to continue unchecked. Our silence and inaction become part of the problem. It's up to each of us to take responsibility, even in small ways, for the world we share. The first and most important step is to refuse to look away. It's about breaking the habit of indifference, and choosing instead to acknowledge the humanity of every person we encounter, no matter their circumstances. It begins with a conscious decision to see the people we have been trained to ignore. This means making eye contact, offering a smile, or simply saying hello. These small gestures remind us, and them, that they are not invisible. This small act will not solve homelessness, but it fights against the dehumanization that allows the crisis to persist. When we see people as individuals, with stories and dreams, we begin to chip away at the stigma and isolation that surround them. The next step is to educate ourselves and to talk about the issue. Learn about the causes of homelessness, like lack of affordable housing, mental health challenges, and systemic inequality. Share what you learn with friends, family, and colleagues. We must move beyond the simplistic and often cruel stereotypes. Homelessness is not a personal failing, but but a societal one. By challenging misconceptions, we create space for empathy and understanding. By changing the conversation, we can begin to build the public and political will needed for real systemic change. When more people care, leaders are forced to listen. Our voices, united, can push for policies that address the root causes of homelessness. Of course, we must also act. Compassion without action is not enough. There are countless ways to get involved, no matter your skills or resources. You can volunteer at a local shelter or a food bank. Even a few hours a month can make a real difference in someone's life. Your time and presence matter. You can donate to organizations that are on the front lines. Every dollar helps provide food, shelter, and support services to those in need. If you can, consider making regular contributions. Call your elected officials and demand that they make affordable housing a priority. Write letters, sign petitions, and attend public meetings. Your voice can help shape the policies that will end homelessness for good. This is not a problem that will be solved overnight. It will take time, persistence, and collective effort. But every step forward brings us closer to a more just and compassionate society. Let us work toward a future where no one is forgotten and everyone has a safe place to call home. Together, we can reclaim our shared humanity, one act of kindness, one conversation, and one policy at a time.